into actionable projects and initiatives that are ready for financing and implementation. We are enthusiastic and honored to have distinguished speakers and expert panelists with us today. And we will actually be starting with a keynote presentation that comes in the following. It is our honor to welcome Dr. Tsarandalam. She's the Director General in the Climate Change and Strategic Planning Department of the Ministry of Environment and Tourism of Mongolia. Without further ado, Dr. Tsarandalam, I hand it over to you. And thank you very much for your opening remarks.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the very good chance to organize the side event during the COP28 in Dubai. And first of all, many thanks for the participating to come to our side event, especially that is the title is from the commitment to climate change actions, lessons on NDC implementation from NDC Action Project in Mongolia. And so that the side event jointly organized by the Ministry of Environment and Tourism of Mongolia, and also in the UNEF and UNEF in the Hapunga and Climate Change Center. And therefore, thank you for the UNEF environment and UNEF and the CCC for the continued support to implement the NDC in Mongolia and for the organizing this the joint event. And also, we are many thanks for the NDC Partnership for giving this good opportunity to organize the site event in the pavilion. So Mongolia has the official confirmed and updated its NDC on October 2020, aiming for the commitment on both mitigation and adaptation. So key targets and goals include, amongst other the agreement, greenhouse gas emission reduction of 22.7% compared to the business as usual in this country by 2030, or even in the reduced of the 27% with international support. Moreover, the country commitments to adapt the climate change and effects, increasing the resilience and reducing the risk, exposure, and vulnerabilities. And Mongolia, like other developing countries, faces certain challenges to achieving the NDC and the ambitious goals. While the commitments are critical, and also many in the countries struggle to translate them into the concrete climate change actions, facing the hurdles in design and implementation of the policies. The UNEF and the NDC Action project supports for Mongolia, especially to translate the key adaptation and mitigation actions and measurements for selecting the high priority areas. That is include the climate change, smart agriculture, especially in terms of adaptation. And second area is energy and efficiency, especially engines and motors and industry and mining sectors of the country mitigation area. And government, through the Ministry of Environment and Tourism, so and all the ministries and agencies, are currently structuring and implementing the strategy and roadmap that will guide relevant stakeholders across ministries, institutions, and provinces toward the achievement of the climate goals. And this in the framework of this implementation the strategy, the government has identified several short-term needs, enabling the condition to translate Mongolia's NDC goals into the actions at national and subnational level. Some of these requirements are being incurred by government, but the others need financial support from external sources. So Mongolia, like in the many other developing countries, struggles in raising the public funds and attracting the private investment in the NDCs. Financing the NDC through the private investments can be additionally demanding due to the high interest rates. So in this event, we aim to share the experiences and also on the implementations of the NDC adaptation and mitigation actions, focusing on selected two sectors, namely farming and industry, and learn from the other experiences on the NDC implementation. And so from the concluding my opening remarks, so I'd like to wish all of you the successful discussion and then active engagement in this side event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tsarandalam. It's a pleasure to have you here and an honor. And yeah, I'd like to listen to this introductory remarks about climate policy in Mongolia. We would actually like to invite you to take the microphone again for the first keynote presentation on NDC implementation, policies and actions in Mongolia. So if you like, Dr. Tsarandolam, the stage is yours again for the first keynote presentation.
So where is the presentation? So that this. Okay. And so the other in terms of the presentation, especially for this in the side event, so we are mainly focusing on the adaptation and mitigation of the sectors. This in the presentation that shows how is the climate change scenario in Mongolia, and also how is the impacting of the climate change in the different sectors of Mongolia. Very briefly introduced. For the climate change, especially that is measured by the annual temperature, so that is increased by 2.47 degrees last 80 years, especially between 1945 and 2010, and also on the annual average in the perception that is decreased in the 2.5%. That is also one kind of the challenge, especially in Mongolia, is based on economic sectors, including the agriculture and sometimes in the tourism, also in the mining the sectors. So greenhouse gas in the emission, the average in the per capita is that also increased in the 2.7%, and it means Mongolia is one of the vulnerable in the country for the climate change. And the desertification rate is increased extremely in the 70% so that is also one of the responsible actions, also one of the big challenges to the environmental protection this area, including all of the sectors. So also the disaster and the frequency is increasing the 2 times, and groundwater is also one of the challenge that is decreased to 98%. So in the forest area that is also one of the challenge in climate change in the area. So climate change impacting, especially for the vulnerability in the sectors, mainly so natural disaster, and also in the wildlife, and then so in the forest area, especially on the pasture land. That the issues is one of the challenge in impacting of the climate change, especially the sensitivity assessment of the national level. Especially in the sector and the specific in the analysis case, one of the good things is tourism the sector that have some of the positive impact on the climate change of Mongolia. So that in the slide shows the greenhouse gas emission, especially the zinc and then so our greenhouse gas in the emission, the current scenario. So in the last years, especially in the our and the in the report and the shows, especially in the agriculture in the sector, plus in the energy sector, that have those in the sectors have the main role for the producing the greenhouse gas emission in Mongolia. Although in the Mongolia and already made in the commitment for the carbon neutral in the country to 2050, that isn't also one of the issue for the reaching that goal based on that in the zinc and also in the emission the absorption. So in the sector and the specific in the mitigation the targets case, we already selected in the 6 in the area, especially 6 in the sectors, including in the energy and agriculture, industry and transportation, construction, the waste in the sectors. Among those in the sectors, main in the contribution of the sectors is energy, the plus in the agriculture sector. Very small percentage related to the waste and the management in the issues. anyway, so those the six the targets is mainly the focusing on for the mitigation area, and then so that is the big the contribution to our the national the NDC that is the already defined by 22.7% of the greenhouse gas in the emission the reduction to 2030. So now so Mongolia already in the summarize how to say the finalized national adaptation plan that will be approved by National the Committee on the Climate Change. That in the plan is include the main the 8 in the sectors, especially in the biodiversity and so environment in the issues, nature and the disaster and the management, and then some the public health, including in the, some of the social and the security in the issues. Those in the in the implementation of those in the sectors. So we have the main the 10 goals and also the including in the more than the 100 in the actions for the responding of and also for the adapting of the climate change and the current the challenges. So the next in the point is in the policy in the condition, have to say policy in the environment, especially in the legal in the environment. Currently, we are making new law that is in the climate change the new law. That so law case that is also just under the discussion for the making the draft. However, so we will cover those in the main the actions, especially in the sustainable financial the mechanism, how to reach the green the financial the mechanism for the Mongolia, especially in the national level, and then so for the transparency. So emergent system also needs to the transparency from the 2024, and then so we include for that in the mechanism of the transparency, and then so long-term the objective of the climate change in the area. Then so intersectoral the coordination. So intersectoral the coordination is maybe the one of the key in the valuable the action for the climate change related in the law and the legal environment. So we understand so. And then so structure, responsibility, and then so the mechanism of the especially to the implement in the actions, the commitment. That is also one of the area. Then so the capacity building and the human and the resources related in the issues, one of the challenge, and then so we include for that point to the legal environment in the issue. So in the end of my presentation, I'd like to say, so first of all, I'm so trying to introduce how is the climate change issue scenario in Mongolia, just the impacting what is in the area is the most in the challenges, yeah. Then so what is our response and the action, especially in the policy level. Currently we are making the national adaptation plan and also the legal environment, especially in the climate change law, etc. So thank you very much for your attention.
Dr. Tsarandalam, thank you very much for this keynote presentation. I think that gave a fantastic overview of the context that we're talking about today. And maybe just to point out one detail among many that I found quite striking that might be surprising to those who are less familiar with the Mongolian context is the temperature increase that you have mentioned at the beginning. That is already way above the global average temperature increase, right? You spoke about more than 2 degrees Celsius that on average the temperature has risen in Mongolia, which is very noteworthy and indeed quite striking. With this in mind, I'd like to give the floor to our next keynote speaker. And I would, please join me in giving a hand to Dr. Dagvador Samdin. He's our National Project Coordinator of the NDC Action Project in Mongolia, and he will be sharing his insights with us on climate change adaptation and mitigation actions in 2 prioritized sectors in the country. I'd like to remind all of us that given the time that we try to be a little bit concise and have about 7 minutes per keynote presentation. With this in mind, thank you very much, and over to you, Dr. Dagvador.
Thank you, Benjamin. Good afternoon, everyone. So it's already mentioned our distinguished moderator, so I will be very briefly. So I am coordinator of this project in Mongolia. So this is already mentioned. It is a global project implemented in 10 countries. One of these 10 countries is Mongolia in Asia. So this is some objective, outcome, and deliverable framework. So based on these objectives, so we implemented our project activities in Mongolia from 2019 to 2022. So our project is almost completed. No, might be it's a little bit extended. So firstly, we need to have some capacity building and enabling environment building activities. Also, we had some priority supportive framework. So I mean some policy framework, institutional arrangements. Also based on these activities, so we made some assessment of policy brief, also some financial assessment and investment plan development. So of course, one of these very important activities of our project is knowledge sharing and activities. It's based on this knowledge sharing. So we have to make some contribution to global stock taking exercise in Mongolia. So based on all these activities, so we developed some project proposals and concept notes for funding in some specific areas. So this is already overlapping slide, already showed by Dr. Tserendolum. This is some NDC target and goals and sectoral contributions to implement this NDC target and goals. So first one is mitigation part, because it's already mentioned, our project focused in two areas. In adaptation side, it's arable farming, crop planting sector. In mitigation side, so we will focus on energy efficiency improvement, mainly in industrial sector. So this energy in the agriculture and industrial sector, so we will our cover areas, so we will contribute to implementation of all these three sector implementation in our NDC targets. So it's no need, I think so, it's no need to underline the importance of this energy in the industrial sector, because in our greenhouse gas inventory, this majority of emissions is coming from the energy sector. Also, industrial sector also giving some big contributions. Now, this is need to underline that this is some older data. It's from 2014, because when we developed our NDC document, NDC action plan, we focused on this 2014 years database. So during that time, Mongolia had about 34.5 million tons of CO2 equivalent GHG emissions. It's without LULUCF sector. No, but it's already increased, because this year we developed our second biannual updated report. It's just recently submitted to the Climate Change Secretariat. So in this new report, it's our total GHG emissions is already 33 million tons CO2 equivalent. No, but this is very small to global context. No, but per capita or some per GDP rate, GHG emissions, it's very high. So in this case, we need to improve our efficiency, and also we need to make some energy transition sector to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. Agriculture sector and arable farming, of course, you know this agriculture is still very vital to the country's economy. So also it's arable farming, it's one of the important sector of the agriculture sector. But our agriculture sector is mainly focused on irrigated planting practices. So in this case, this sector is very vulnerable to climate change adverse impacts. So we have to focus in this area to address climate change negative impacts. So in our NDC action plan, so energy sector improvement, also in industrial sector, also agricultural sector, arable farming, so we already identified several key measures to be implemented in these areas. So I think so no need to read out all these activities. In my next slides, I will focus some activities. So this is some technical measures and activities conducted during the last 3 years. So we conducted several capacity building and training activities. Also, we had some knowledge sharing products. Also, we have one web-based platform. Also, it's about more than 160 people very trained. So one of the key outcomes of our project is we developed two project concept note for funding. This is some adaptation measures in arable farming sector. So I already mentioned it in our NDC action plan. There were identified several adaptation measures in the drip irrigation system introduction. Also, we need to plastic film layer. Also, we need to establish some forest strips. So this forest strip activities, it's very closely linked with our billion trees planting campaign initiated by our president. Also, it's for Mongolia, it's very important the fencing of arable land, because in Mongolia we have a lot of animals. So in this case, we need to protect our crop planting fields from animals. This is some activities in energy efficiency improvement in industrial sector. So there are three key measures. So firstly, we need to improve energy efficiencies in industrial sector, electric motors and lighting efficiency in this sector. Secondly, we need to introduce new standard. It's MNS ISO 5001 2019 to improve the management system in the industrial sector. So lastly, we need to improve energy consumption norms per unit of production or per service in the industrial sectors. This is main coverage area of this energy efficiency sector in the country. This is some key assessment recommendations conducted under this project. So I need to repeat all these issues. So just you can see that there are some policy assessment and recommendations on supporting the implementation NDC actions in both sectors. Also, we made some financial investment. Also, we developed some investing plan for implementation NDC actions. So also, I already mentioned that we were developing two project proposals for international funding organizations. The first one is in the arable farming and crop planting sector. This is focused in some smallholder vegetable farmers to support the ecosystem-based adaptation approaches in some Donggo and Oranga IMAX. Secondly, we are working together with the Trade and Development Bank of Mongolia to develop some project proposal for GCF funding. This is some concluding remarks. So I need this technical support was very helpful for Mongolia to implement our NDC actions. Also, the recommendations and outcomes will be very solid ground for further updating GHG mitigation targets in the energy efficiency sector, also to increase our adaptation goals in crop planting sector also. Also, these concept notes and project proposals will be very helpful to increase our funding sources. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Dr. Davador, thank you very much for your insights that you shared. Very insightful. I think particularly the fact that you mentioned that the role of adaptation in the agriculture sector, right? Considering that a third of the workforce, as you said, is involved or is working in the agriculture context, and 10% of GDP comes from that sector, hence the need to really focus on adapting in that context. Very interesting and insightful. Thank you very much. We now welcome the third and last keynote speaker that we have today with us, Dr. Choi Han. She's the director of the Climate Change Research and Cooperation Center and GCF Focal Point of Mongolia. Please join me in giving her a hand. We will have the third keynote speech right away. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And apologies, just for the sake of time, let us try to be within the 7 minutes limit if possible, so that we can have the panel discussion right afterwards. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming for this event and also providing me this opportunity to share and talk about the money. So this speech is going to be more about the climate finance. Where's the...
Could we have the third presentation, please? Thank you.
So, just in the meantime, I would like to discuss about the climate finance, what I'm talking about. So it is the not ordinary money, it's climate money, climate finance. Basically, it is there is a number of points about these definitions because many international financial institutions, they have their own terms and they have own definitions. So I think this is captures the most of the points of the climate finance. So I just got this from the London School of Economics definition. So climate finance aims at reducing emissions, enhancing sink of emission, and aims at reducing vulnerability and maintaining increasing resilience of human ecological systems to negative climate impacts, which is a very thrilling concept from my point of view. So here I would like to also bring up the recent data and the reports published in 2023 this year. So this climate policy initiative report is very important for us because in the average scenario, what we are talking at this COP is about the impacts of climate change and how scales and intensity is going to be costly for us in the future. So therefore, this is the diagram shows how it's going to be expensive in our lifetime in the future as well. So it means like the climate finance needed by 2030, probably around 8.1 to 9 trillion USD is required to what we are talking about today. So it's going to be increased after 2050 by 10 trillion USD per year. So how much money we needed to tackle the climate change in the future? So it's a very important report. Probably you can have access from the internet. It's all actually surrounding about the how much cost we needed in the future. So I think it is also the time for us to invest for actions. So it's going to be pretty much the costly, busy slide, and but it is very much clear for us to saying this is the time to act now. This is the time to invest now. So the next slide, in order to save time, I'd like to skip that slide because that is also in that 2023 global climate policy initiative report. So here I would like to raise your point, draw your attention to the ongoing 9 different UNCCC reports. We have now a National Communication Report, NDC reports, and also we have the biannual updated reports. And 9 different reports, we all having different commitments and different actions we are put it there, determined in a country perspective. But these are all have money implications, the financial implications. So therefore, I think it is already been presented earlier, and the NDC targets, Mongolia has been identified, and that targets and the mitigation target, energy, construction, transport, and also agriculture, industry, waste. All these mitigation adaptation targets we have has all the total estimations, the cost estimations we have done. So in 2021, actually, NDC Implementation Action Plan has been approved For that particular document, we have identified the 3 different areas and 24 objectives, 72 activities. In total, a fund we required for Mongolia to achieve the actual goals by 2030, 11 billion USD is required. For that, mitigation activities 6.3 billion and adaptation activities 2.5 billion USD. So how are we going to achieve in that? What possibilities, opportunities we have? Here I just put the public funding, public financial resources, international resources. The first international sources are, as you know, just yesterday, the 4 different international funding agencies are making cooperation agreement, and now moving forward to the climate finance is going to be much easier, more inclusive to all of us, and Mongolia is also benefiting from it. And for example, multilateral conventions mechanism, we have GCF, Adaptation Fund, GEF, and bilaterally we have GCM, and many other agreements are going on. So we are trying to finance, we're trying to achieve the NDC goals and in timely manner. So Mongolia is one of the country making achieved the number of projects approved in GCF, and funding total amount of funding is now 465 million USD. And this is towards the climate finance, financial mechanisms are in terms of developing country as benefited, and also it is progressing, but still we need lots of things to do. And Mongolia, I just put it here, the key promises Mongolia made at the international community. One is the COP26 Glasgow. We promised to spend at least 1% of the GDP to climate actions. And Sharm el-Sheikh last year, Mongolia became the net zero by 2050. To ensure these implementations, the funding sources that we needed, and we are open to collaborations and open for investments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Choi Han, for this presentation, your insights that you shared with us on the climate finance landscape in Mongolia, and especially also for pointing to the cost of inaction, right? I think that was a key element that we could retain, meaning that the longer we wait, the costlier it becomes, and hence the time for climate investments is now. We will now have a panel discussion for 15 minutes that are remaining, and I'm pleased and honored to invite our 3 panelist speakers to come up. We have Dr. Tsaramdulam, again, Director General Climate Change and Strategic Planning Department of the Ministry of Environment and Tourism. We have Mr. Balchinovsan, I hope I pronounced you correctly, Director General for Integrated Policy Planning Department of the, sorry, I'll make some room, yes, please, take a seat, of the Ministry of Economy and Development of Mongolia. And last but not least, we have Ms. Nyamsuren. She's the chief of Green Finance team, of the Trade Development Bank of Mongolia. Please give me a hand in welcoming our panelist speakers here on the podium. Do you have a microphone? I think you have one right next to you. So we have 15 minutes now to continue discussing opportunities and challenges and best practices and lessons learned with NDC implementation in Mongolia. And I'd like to start with you, Dr. Tsaramdulam, with a question regarding the NDC revision process that is coming out now. And I'd like to know if you could elaborate a little bit on Mongolia's intentions and plans for the upcoming NDC revision for 2025.
So for the disregards case, first of all, I would like to especially talk about now and the challenges, especially to get in the 2015 the goal, to determine in national level. So for the challenges in the current challenge case, for the implementation, although we already identified our the commitment of the reduction of the greenhouse gas emission by 20.7% to 2030. However, for the implementation level case, especially some energy in the sector, the agriculture in the sector, and all the mitigation in the sectors need more exercises, more under contribution for the NDC, the commitment. So why so I'm starting from the talking about the implementation case for the future and the goals, future and the strategic case that we shouldn't talk about now on the basis of the current issues and also the next assessments from the for the data and the strategy. Second point case the adaptation the issues. Although we already drafted and finalized it in the national adaptation the strategy. However, that is just the plan. Although we need more understanding, more good practices in terms of the implementation of the adaptation actions. So it means we need the more the sectoral the coordination action is very needful for Mongolia. Then so that we can work together for the special long-term strategy 2050, 2050 actions. Before that, the side event, so Bachin and me and made a very good meeting with the BRT and the colleagues, especially in terms of the drafting and the long-term strategy. So next the point is yes, and so how to update the NDC, especially to 2030. So in my presentation already shows that our commitment is very clear in the 20.7%. However, so if we take some contribution from the international organization, in that case we can increase our commitment to 27.2%. And also if we include some of the agriculture and the potential resources to reduce our greenhouse gas emission or land-related actions. In that case, we have some opportunity to reduce greenhouse gas emission to 32% of the greenhouse gas emission comparing to the basis in the our basic and how to say in the numbers. And so last and the third and the point case, and so last in the 2 or 3 days, and we joined together for the COP and the sessions. For the COP and the sessions, especially in the country and the level, the president or prime minister, the statement case, they already revealed it. Then the contribution, especially in the developing in the countries, and the contribution is around the 20%, sometimes the 30% to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. In this point case, we shouldn't think about our situation. Yes, the Mongolia is one of the vulnerable countries for the climate change in the area. However, so we think about how is the current procedure of the climate change and the commitment, also implementation as well, especially in terms of the multi-sector and the coordination at the level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was very insightful. And we understand then that there are continuing discussions about the contribution, and then you also mentioned the need to move and to take what we have already and to move from the planning phase to the action phase, right? So that is very clear, and thank you for that intervention. With that in mind, I'd like to address a question to Mr. Balchinlov-san. I'm wondering to what extent or how is the government planning and implementing actions to involve local communities and indigenous perspectives in shaping and implementing climate policy in Mongolia? Maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and also good afternoon, the honored participants. Most of the presenters already mentioned what the Mongolian government has been doing, doing some work regarding to the climate action and the environmental issues. So I understand our time is very tight, and so I wanna give you some brief information regarding to how Mongolian has been regulating the some issues regarding to the climate issues. So the by law of the development planning of the Mongolia, we have three types of the policy documents. The one is long-term policy and long and mid-term and short-term policies. In the long-term policies, which is called the Vision 2050, the one of the goals, the targeted goals of the policy document is like the green development. Also like the midterm policy, which called like development, the targeted development program, and there are like 7 development programs. One of them is the environmental issues, which called like environmental targeted development program, and one of them is environmental the policy document, and then we have like the annual development plan, and then we're gonna plan. We have been planned like very shortly, annually, what the government need to do like on the extent of the all sectors. So I would say like the Mongolian government already concerned about like the climate actions, but like by this law, I could say like all the participants, including the local communities, all involved in this implementation of the policy documents regarding to the climate action. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's very clear. Thank you for the sharing how the participation process in the NDC implementation is thought through and implemented. That's very interesting. Also, with that in mind, I'd like to come to our third panelist, Mrs. Nyam Sudan, and ask you, as a representative who's not from the government but from the private sector side or the financial side, better said, from a bank. I would like to ask you how, whether you can discuss any innovative financial instruments and mechanisms that your bank deploys to incentivize climate-friendly practices among those who borrow from your bank.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon. Since I'm from Trade and Development Bank of Mongolia, and I'm representing one of the financial institutions. So some of our institutions are here. So mostly commercial banks and private sectors have their own, as of now, this is 2023, and last several years, financial institutions have been strategically and thematically, they've been deploying and building up products and financial instruments to the public, to their borrowers, to their clients. For example, ourselves, most of the banks, specifically like 5 systematic banks, have green loan products, like for the retail clients, for the SME clients, for the corporate clients. And also they have inclusive products, as well as some of the banks have already issued green bonds, and some of them have risk mitigating insurance instruments, and we do have several products in line. And then we have been deploying funds to our clients. For example, the latest product that we have introduced to our clients is for the clients who lack their insufficient collaterals. We partnered with national agencies, which is the Credit Guarantee Fund. So it's like Credit Guarantee Fund backed up green business loans. So for the corporates who they have insufficient collaterals, who wants to deploy more innovative and green technologies to their operations, we fund them. But it just like the interest rate is much lower than the regular loans, even compared to a regular business loans. So that kind of products we have in place. And then of course we're trying to have more modernized, more innovative products. For example, green savings or some payment instruments that we can deploy, so it's still in research. And then also we have been working with GCF since there are 2 organizations, and Husbank and our bank ourselves are accredited by GCF. So we are working on such products to prepare, such as grants, the readiness programs, and then also one of the projects that is aligned with NDC is like deploying one of our projects is to attract funding and on-lend to our clients who are in agriculture, who are in manufacturing and non-fossil fuel mining areas and sectors, and who need a funding to from the business as usual models to the green technologies. So we want to support them and finance them, and for the longer period of time, more secure and safer, longer tenors, and with softer, terms and with interest rates, and then so that they can acquire those kind of fundings from GCF and from other funders, and then so they can adopt more of climate resilient the governance policies within their operations, as well as they can have introduced their innovative technologies into it, and then introduce more MRV systems to the operations. So we want to trigger them with the longer period of softer terms of loans in order to, transition to the green financing and transition to the, have the transition plans into their operations.
Great, thank you very much. It's very interesting to see this dual role a little bit that the Trade and Development Bank seems to play, right? On one side through loans with preferential terms, and on the other side accompanying processes regarding GCF proposal development. So thank you very much for your intervention on that side. Before we close, I'd have like a last question for the three of you. It's like a quick and spontaneous question that I'm sure everybody might have a different perspective on that. And the question would be, do you see any key enablers that you feel that are currently missing on the policy side that you would like to see reflected, that you believe would help push even further or accelerate the NDC implementation in the country? Is there a specific element that you could think of where you say, this is what we would need, or this is what would help us in the country, that we might want to either change or that we want to propose that could help further accelerate the implementation of NDCs? Just maybe a very quick answer, because we're a little bit out of time. If you have a 1 or 2 minute answer, that'd be fantastic. If you'd like to start.
I would like to start, because during the last meeting with all the stakeholders regarding to the climate actions and the climate the issues, they keep saying like this, all countries have same issues, same obstacles regarding to the data collection regarding the climate action and making some policy documents. So on this regard, we have been working with the 2050 pathway platform. Under the making the long-term policy regarding to the climate action. So they have been helping us to what other countries have been doing this kind of policies. They keep supporting us, share with us their good experiences. That would be the priority in the future, data sharing and sharing the good experiences between other countries, I would say.
Perfect. Mr. Balchinlov-san, thank you very much. So more data sharing? Acoustic? Okay, perfect. More data sharing, more information sharing through platforms like the 2050 Pathway platform and others. Dr. Charandasan?
Yes, so especially yesterday, so we strongly discussed about the climate and the finance. Other than this, the side event also mentioned about how is the climate finance in Mongolia. Yeah, and so it is very in the core, how to say, in the core the aspect for the implementation of the NDC and also long-term strategies, etc. So what the mechanism is very helpful to the Mongolia, that is maybe identify for the climate and the finance related to the actions and also policies. For example, in the countries already in the introduced the greenhouse gas tax, and also the next point get climate and the justice. For the climate and the justice case, it is very relevant to the climate change law, especially that is the newly adopting for Mongolia, we are drafting now. So have to introduce our climate climate and the justice and the basic financial strategy to the national level, national entities, including the private sectors. That is the one point to us, especially from the COP28 in Dubai.
Dr. Tarandalam, thank you very much. So if I understand correctly, you're proposing, or you're mentioning two aspects, one of them being the financial side of saying, okay, maybe a greenhouse gas tax or the like, but at the same time taking into account climate justice aspects and making sure that the transition is made in a just way. Thank you very much. And lastly, if you have a perspective from your side, Ms. Nyamsuren.
As represented the private sector, of course there are lots of issues and that needs to be triggered and needs to be, there are capacity building, for example, for encouraging clients to transition and have their own transition plans. And then that's, I think, one of the utmost. And also, at the same time, from the policy perspective, from the government, there should be some encouragements. See the policy gap and then develop some more encouraging, how do I say, maybe some regulations and legal requirements that encourage the clients to transition. At the same time, there's an example from the central bank. There is, if the financial institutions, they acquire funding from the international funders and investors, there are some incentives of 0.5% of the green funding will be deducted from the swap rate. So their swap rate change is quite higher. So we need more softer terms in order to encourage more investors to come in and then deploy the funding through the commercial banks or through the investors. And then also we do have in line already prepared green taxonomy in place and developed by private sector, led by the private sector, encouraged by the ministries, and then from the Financial Stability Committee, And then now we're moving towards the deploying and adopting a sustainable taxonomy. So we're moving forward. So we need more encouragement from the policy side and see those gaps, whether we need to correct and then move on. And then have the clients to have transition plans. Encourage them.
Mrs. Nyamsuren, thank you very much. So I understand you pointing to a policy gap on one side, and on the other side pointing to the fact that we need more incentives for private sector actors to accelerate their climate action, be it through softer lending terms or other aspects, but to mobilize really the private sector side. Thank you so much. We would love to have a question and answer session right now. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we need to close right here, but I would invite everybody who has questions to our panelists to come up afterwards and have it or maybe on the side, so we can make space for the next side event, and to answer, to seek answers to our questions bilaterally. Thank you very much again to our three panelists. Please give them a hand. This was our panel discussion, and we will now be shortly closing. Ms. Nyamsuren, maybe you would like to take the floor for some closing remarks.
I think that we don't need any more on the talking, yeah? Just the closing this in the side event. Many thanks, moderator. Many thanks in the presenters, and also many thanks in the panelists. You can have to say, understand about the current challenges and the actions about the NDC, and also other related to the implementation, also some of the strategies of the climate change area of Mongolia. Many thanks.